And this is from FreePress.net. You guys know FreePress. They're an organization I'm a big fan of. And they do a lot for net neutrality, a lot for media reform, a lot for accessible journalism, and grassroots journalism. And here's something interesting that they are doing right now. Local government funds local news, and that's a good thing. When we start treating people not as consumers but as constituents, we'll find new ideas, new allies, and new resources to reverse the downward spiral in local journalism and restore the public's trust in the news. This is from Mike Rispoli and Craig Aaron, both employees of Free Press. Public funding for journalism, the shock, the horror. Got that knee-jerk reaction out of your system? Great, because 2019 will be the year that more governments start funding local news. In New Jersey this year, thousands of residents organized, rallied, and lobbied lawmakers to pass the Civic Info Bill. This landmark legislation has created a first-of-its-kind public fund to support quality journalism, promising media startups and other efforts meant to better inform communities. The first $5 million for the Civic Information Consortium has gotten hung up in a procedural dispute between the government and the legislature, but 2019 will be the year the effort gets funded. And what is Free Press trying to do? They're trying to do this all around the country, and that is under the project called the News Voices Project. They're basically going around the country, and they're trying to get journalism funded on the local level in different communities all around the country. And yes, this is infinitely important. Why? Because local news has pretty much gone away, and there have been many efforts to revive local news. There was an effort called The Patch, which was an online digital newspaper, and every neighborhood had a representative. That, to my knowledge, ended up getting bought out, and it ended up just not standing the test of time. I think because they tried to homogenize that as best they could, instead of staying with the original vision, which was local journalism and local journalists in the community, and it ended up, I think, either going belly up or not having the influence that was originally planned. This is an organization that actually gets funding for journalism at the local level. And yes, that's a good thing. And yes, having a government just sign the check for journalism is a good thing. Does the BBC have its problems? Yes. Does the CBC have its problems? Yes. But is that type of model infinitely better than what we have in the United States? Absolutely. Yes. So we should have government signing the check for journalism. That doesn't mean government gets to dictate what goes into that content. It means they sign the check. And that means you can fund local journalism products because you're not going to worry about the bottom line as much. You're just going to worry about providing news and information. Because we need journalism, and journalism costs money. That's the reality of it. Sustainable journalism costs money. Journalists need to be able to make a living. And they are infinitely important to our society. Journalists are essential to a democratic society. They're not optional. They're mandatory. And we have forgotten the idea of journalism as a public good. We have forgotten that idea. We did have it at one point in this country, by the way. We had it. Prior to the 20th century, we had it. The government funded journalism. Because they would give subsidies to the Postal Service. To any media organization. We've lost that notion. That's what freedom of the press used to refer to, by the way. Freedom of the press used to refer to accessibility, like you could participate in the media. You could be a newsmaker. Because they knew how important that was. We've lost that notion. We've lost the idea of journalism as the public good. But FreePress.net is having some effort to try to retake that back. And I look forward to seeing continued success on that project.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and